Hello, everybody. This is me, Amin,
And this Alex.
and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About. And in this episode, we're going to talk about old people and driving. So, this week, I think the internet went on fire because of a report from. I think the cause of this was a report from New Straits Times. The article, the headline of the report says, "Cops call for driving license for senior citizens to be restricted." And everybody went on social media. I think everybody read the headline and everybody went on social media and go like, what the hell? What's going on? We shouldn't restrict old people. Let them drive and be at peace, you know. So on today's episode, we're gonna peel the onion. We're gonna dissect this issue, and we're gonna find out, okay, who said what that caused the story, and what does the data say with regards to old people and driving. And what's the issue? Is it really an issue? So yeah, I mean, okay, let's go. So what do you think, Alex?
I think it's a lot of misunderstanding. I think this whole issue is blown out of proportion because, as you know, right, it all started from this one guy. So it's actually more like a suggestion by the Bukit Aman Traffic Investigation and Enforcement Department Director, Dato Azizman alias. Because he said that he proposed to the government to maybe impose some restrictions for motor license renewals for older people because there could be some health conditions that could be a factor that could lead to road accidents.
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to come back to that, right? So this is the article from the New Straits Times. Number one, the headline, "Cops call for driving license for senior citizens to be restricted." The word restricted here, I think it's wrong. What does it mean by driving license to be restricted? I mean, that means what? You cannot drive in the daytime, you cannot drive in the nighttime, you can only drive at certain times. I think that word is wrong. And then the first paragraph says the Royal Malaysian Police has called for driving license issuance to senior citizens to be restricted. Again, the word restricted, and he says the Royal Malaysian Police. And okay, this was a special press conference done by the Bukit Aman Traffic Investigation and Enforcement Department Director Dato Azizman alias, the one that you mentioned. And what he said was, I don't think he used the word restricted. And I don't think he called for anything. I think one of the reporters asked a question and he just answered, okay, what the reporter probably asked, okay, Dato, what do you think about the road safety, or what should we do with regards to road safety in Malaysia? And one of the issues was not restricting, but I think the word not restricting is like controlling. It says that the health condition of a motorist was a factor which contributed to accidents. And naturally, older people are not as healthy as younger people. But does it mean that older people are more dangerous?
Yeah, I think that's a good point because obviously older people, they have a certain health risks, right? There's like Alzheimer's, also blurred vision, which could cause accidents on the road. And like he mentioned during the press conference, this was quoted by Malay Mail, he mentioned that there was a case where a senior citizen who was caught driving on a motorcycle lane. Therefore, the government needs to study about the insurance of the driver's license to senior citizens. That's it. That's what he said.
Yeah.
To look into the renewal
Yes.
of the license.
So there's actually, in the true sense of the word, the restriction is not used here. And then number two, just citing one example of an old person driving in the motorcycle lane is not cause for looking into into changing the rules and regulations of driving in Malaysia. Do I feel that the rules and regulations in the country with regards to driving needs to be improved? Yes, I do feel that, but it needs to be driven by data. And what I'm not happy with this article is because it doesn't provide you context. So if you read this article, we'll probably put it up on the video after this. The reporter just comes in and say, okay, this is what the director of Traffic Investigation and Enforcement Department said, and that's it. He didn't provide context. The reporter didn't provide okay, this is what he said, but the data shows this. So far in Malaysia, X amount of people have died and the ages are so and so. Even if you don't have that data, you can pull out the data from what other countries are doing, right? What other countries are doing with regards to their senior citizen drivers, what the data says on whether older drivers are more dangerous than younger drivers, or do they pose a menace on our roads. that article didn't provide that, and it just becomes fodder for everybody on social media to go crazy. But most of the people are saying, we shouldn't restrict, or I guess some people are saying we should. It puts a point of discussion, but there's no like center idea where, okay, we agree to these facts, we agree to these data, and we agree to these points, and okay, let's debate based on this. It's just like, yeah, my uncle, he's old, but he's a good driver. Oh no, my auntie is old, but she crashed and terribly or whatever. You can't just pull all those things and say, yeah, we should do this, we should do that. It should be driven by data. Speaking of data, what does the data say? I mean, what are other countries doing with regards to senior citizen drivers?
Well, I mean, they don't really like set like a restriction like, okay, if you're 70 years old, you can't drive at all. No, what they do is they put certain conditions on the renewal. Like for example, in most countries, what they do is that they reduce the duration of the renewal, because like right now, I think in Malaysia, you can renew a license between 1 to 10 years. I think 10 years is the maximum. So in some certain countries, like for example, like Japan, what they did was if a driver is age 71 years old and above, they can renew the license they have to renew the license every 3 years, as opposed to the normal 5-year period. And for those who are aged 75 years or older in Japan, they must take a cognitive test and when they try to renew their license. And if they are suspected of having dementia, they need to go for a medical checkup. So it's basically based on the certain conditions. And okay, one good example would be Singapore. So in Singapore, drivers have to undergo medical examination by a Singapore registered medical practitioner once they hit 65 years old. And they have to do so every 3 years after that to get the license renewed. And if you're age 75 and above in Singapore, you're prohibited from driving, heavy vehicles like trucks, buses, and heavy vehicles. But what's interesting is in the UK. So UK is actually more lax. So they put the responsibility to the driver itself. So in the UK, for example, in UK, elderly drivers do not have to take the test to renew their driver's license, but they need to reapply their license when they reach 70, and then they need to renew every 3 years instead of the usual 10-year period. So basically, this reduced the renewal duration. Yeah. So instead of 10, you do it in every 3 years. And in addition to that, right, they just need to declare that they are fit and healthy to drive, and that's it. And make sure that their eyesight meets the minimum requirements for driving through a self-assessment. So basically, you declare that, okay, I'm fit, my vision's okay, then you can be renewed. But if this shorten the period, that's it. You still can drive. No issues.
So back to the article, right? Back again to the word restricted here. The article quoted again Dato' Azizman, and in quotation marks, right? He said the government needs to study issuing driving licenses to the elderly. If a 70-year-old senior citizen renews his license for a 5-year period, it is not suitable at all because of the age factor. Again, I'm saying the word restricted here is wrong. The article should say, each senior citizens may need to renew their license more regularly. Or maybe required to take a health test before getting their licenses renewed. It doesn't address the key point that that Dato' Azizman is saying. He's saying that health conditions contribute to maybe more traffic accidents. I'm not saying more directly because we don't have the data on that.
Yeah, and also I think this whole thing spiraled to something even worse. So people read one headline and then they have a different impression and then it's spin off another one, up to a point that Transport Minister Dr. V. Kasian had issued a statement that no, we are not asking 70-year-old people and above to surrender licenses. So how did it end up there?
Yeah, how did it end up there?
Yeah, so make it sound like, okay, if you're 70 and above, you can't drive at all in Malaysia. You need to surrender license.
Yeah.
And until the point that Ministry of Transport had to issue that statement that there's no such ruling, they've never mandated such laws.
Yeah, this comes back to this, guys. So a lot of people are saying, we need free and fair press in the country, and I keep telling people, right, what is the point of having I keep telling people, okay, that's after the discussion. So what I keep telling people is that like this: before we can have free and fair press in Malaysia, we need to have responsible press in Malaysia. And before we can have free and fair press in Malaysia, we need to have responsible readers in Malaysia. People who don't just read the headline. People who, question everything and go into understanding what the data says. This is a result of like what irresponsible reporting can do. Okay, in defense the reporter, I don't know, but giving him the benefit of the doubt, giving this person the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he didn't start to write the article with that intent in mind. It's like, okay, I'm gonna spark this fire. And to this person's defense, most of the time he doesn't have control over his headline, right? So that the editor controls that. But going down this thread, this is what irresponsible reporting can create. It can create a lot of confusion. It can create a lot of anxiety. It can even create a lot of panic. And this is what happens. But what does the data show, right? So there's a research done in Swansea so there's a research done in Swansea's University. I think Swansea is in the UK. And the research looks at whether older people are more dangerous on the roads than younger people. The data shows that, and I quote, analysis of the data on vehicle accidents shows that drivers aged 70 are involved in 3 to 4 times fewer accidents than 17 to 21-year-old men. So younger people are more dangerous on the road. And how come there's no restrictions on that? I mean, I'm not saying that there should be any restrictions. I'm not saying, younger people should be restricted. Okay, maybe they should be restricted to the car that they can drive or the motorcycles that they can ride. But here's the thing. Our what's the word? Our JPJ,
Road Transport Department,
and our getting getting our license test does not account for all this. And the data show that younger people or younger men especially are more dangerous on the road. I mean, you look at all the major accidents that happened recently. The one that drove against the flow of traffic on Federal Highway that killed 2 people.
Yeah.
That was a young
20 plus,
guy who was under the influence of drugs. It wasn't an old person. The research also says young men are more likely to be involved in accidents resulting from driving too fast and losing control, whereby older drivers, the study found, are more likely to be in accidents involving small dents and bumps and in slower speeds.
Basically like fender benders.
Yeah, because they might reverse wrongly, or I guess maybe that's why that creates the impression that older people are more dangerous.
I think they are. For me, I think that some of them could be more careful because they're aware of their limitations. Their reflexes are not that good. So when they drive, they probably drive slower than the average driver, and probably they give ample distance. So they're also more alert that, okay, you know what, I'm actually more vulnerable right now because I'm not as fit as used to be. So they tend to drive safer, I feel. That's what I take on the older people. But of course, there are some other health conditions that can cause more, like dementia and all that stuff. They could, I don't know, blank out or what, or they forgot where they're going to. So that could be a risk. But then again, those are very isolated cases. But then again, like you said, right, the data does not show that older people are more dangerous. Statistically, I think more accidents are involving younger people. And again, you don't need to be 70 years old to drive like a fucking idiot, right? I mean, like you said, there are accidents like drunk driving, don't use signal light, beating the traffic light. Those things, right? You don't need to be 70 years old. Check all of them. Most likely, they are younger people. Below 50.
So what can we do about it? Okay, again, I wanna go back to this Swansea University study, right? It says that older drivers tend to make mistakes when they felt under pressure from other road users.
That rings a
bell. So who are the other road users? I'm looking at Myvi drivers right now.
Oi, what is this?
No, Rory, you're a motorcyclist right now.
True. But I feel that this whole issue, I think there are more pressing matters when it comes to road safety. I think number one is that I think we need to revamp our syllabus because I feel that what we are taught in driving school is not enough to equip younger drivers or new drivers to drive in the real world. Like I think you just recently learn how to ride a bike, right?
Not recently. So okay. So compared to getting a car license, recently, I think Rory is the more younger motorcyclist here. When I first got my license, and it was my first time officially riding a motorcycle. I mean, I've ridden,
unofficially before.
I've ridden unofficially before. I've sneaked out with my father's motorcycle and stuff like that. After I got my license, and nobody, there is no law in the country that stops me, right? A young person, okay, I'm not so young lah. So let's say an 18-year-old or a 20-year-old that has no experience riding any motorcycles. There's no law stopping that person from going to the driving school and say, hey, I want to get a B full license, and after I get my license, I'm gonna get a 1000cc motorcycle with 200 horsepower with no experience. And it's the same for me. So my first bike was a 800cc motorcycle. And when I first rode it, I didn't have the confidence at all to drive it in the open road.
Even after finish the course and after getting
Getting my license. Now, none of the skills they taught me at driving school taught me how to drive in the real world.
Imagine this, right? Imagine if this, like, you're learning how to be a pilot, right? And then your first job to carry 200 passengers. I'm not confident to fly.
Yeah.
That's dangerous,
So
man.
much so that I had to go like take tuition to like go and increase my confidence before I really want to take my bike on the road. You'd have a similar experience, right, Rory?
Yeah, exactly. You don't even need to know how to cycle a bicycle. Like, honestly, if you want, you can just go there and be like, hey, I want to do this. Because I applied actually at 2 different schools. So the first school that I went to, I told them I never ride a bike before, but I want to get a B full license. And then the guy was like, hey, no lah, I think you try the small one first. So I was like, oh, I didn't know got restriction on.
Yeah.
Then he was like trying to talk me down, but me being
Gung-ho.
right? I was just like, no lah, why I waste money, get the small license first and get the big one. So I went to a different school. That one, no questions asked. You got money, you can go.
Yep.
They don't care.
Go big, go home, right?
Yeah, they don't. I mean, they do care in the sense that they don't want you to damage their bike, but that's pretty much it. And the stuff you learn in the riding school is really like, it's like very basic stuff.
It's not beyond basic, it's below basic.
Yeah. You don't actually start learning until you get on the road because it's a whole nother experience.
It's freaking dangerous to learn when you go on the road. So motorcycle license, you don't need to actually go on the road to complete.
Correct.
And the parameters are so loose. So there's one like where you have to do an emergency brake. But in that, the test doesn't say you have to go to which speed. So you have jokers, right, on a 600cc bike during the test going like emergency brake. It's like nothing.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't stimulate. It doesn't simulate
The real world
anything.
conditions.
No.
Yeah. Did they teach you like how to filter?
No. And then the emergency brake part, the funny thing is that you're going so slow, you don't even engage the ABS.
Yeah.
And the bikes have ABS. So what if you're riding a bike that doesn't have ABS? Like there's nobody teaching you threshold braking, none of the actual important things that you have to learn,
You go into the course, you do a figure of 8, and then you go on this like what we call the
hill.
The TT.
Oh, like a small little driving on a curb like that.
So you got to balance on that lane. If you fall off, you fail or something like that.
Immediately fail.
And then you do the emergency brake.
Yeah.
And that's it.
It's more like a circus performance, right?
No, there's the winding left right one also.
Okay, zigzag. Whatever.
But you can do the whole thing in first gear. You don't even need to go to second gear.
Yes, they don't teach you how to change gears. And okay, here's the thing. You take the B full, you pay more. And like Rory mentioned, right, you don't want to waste money. It's all driven by, I'm gonna go on a motorcycle. If I know I'm just using it for like, okay, poodling around, I don't want to waste money and get the B full. But if I know, okay, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna enjoy myself and I'm gonna get like a bigger motorcycle later or now or whatever, I don't want to waste money and get the B2. I'm gonna go with the B full so that I can save money. But there's no restriction. For example, in the UK, right? If you are an A2 or whatever the license category is, you cannot buy a motorcycle above a certain cc. You are only qualified for like below a certain cc.
I think it's power to weight ratio.
Yeah, something like that, right? Okay, I guess we're digressing here. No, maybe we're not, because there are a lot of old people poodling around on motorcycles.
Yeah.
Yep. And also, speaking about limits, right? I think early this year, JPJ is actually studying a proposal from the police to impose limits on youths on what kind of license they can get. So it's proposed that if you're age 20 and below, you only can get license for 70cc motorcycles. I don't know whether you still can get 70cc motorbikes these days. I think they're mostly 100.
What? 70
70cc is the Honda Cup, which is like
Yeah.
before Merdeka time.
That's lower than
They
EX5,
have
right?
to,
C70, yes.
Yeah.
Might as well just cycle bicycle at that point, honestly.
Just ride a electric bicycle.
Oh yeah, electric scooter.
But okay, I think that's a good point because that shows how laggard JPJ is. They have no provision on like electrical personal mobility devices. We go back to why am I talking about this? Because older people, the scenario is like this. Most of them, I don't know. We don't have the data, but we have to look at all the scenarios, right? Because when you make laws like this, it might really restrict people in terms of their mobility. Some people who are older, they like to be independent. They don't want to catch out their kids. They don't want to catch out anybody. They want to be able to drive around. That gives them sense of life, of living.
Imagine like elderly people staying in kampong, right?
Yeah.
Where there's no public transport.
Yeah.
Maybe bus comes once a day, maybe.
Yeah.
How are they going to move around
Yeah.
if they don't have a car?
Yeah, and that just increased the dependency, and that could affect people in terms of the will they want to live. Some I know old people like 70s, 80-year-old, like once they are not able to do something, once they are not able to walk, or once they are just bedridden, they just lose the will to live and they just want to die. Putting restrictions or putting law, whether it's for young people or old people in terms of driving, is complicated because you have to look at the data. The reporting didn't look at the data. There are a lot of data out there because this is not a question that we Malaysians are asking. It is a question that the world is asking, whether older people are dangerous on the roads or not. But the data is showing no. Even there's an article on the Center for Disease Control asking whether older people are more dangerous. But they look at a different perspective. It's not more dangerous in terms of their driving and causing harm to others, but they are more prone to injuries because they are more fragile. So if you look at the data of like deaths among older people or injuries among older people in accidents, that could skew your judgment because naturally older people are going to be easily injured in an accident. So yeah. Okay, and then I want to pull out this other data from the American Occupational Therapy Association. It's an article that talks about the myth and reality about older drivers. Now, question number one is this is the myth. Public safety is significantly improved by getting older drivers off the road. So that's the myth, right? Mm-hmm. And the fact is it's false. So the association says, although it is essential to detect older drivers whose age-related functional impairments place them at risk for crashes, most older drivers are safe drivers. Older drivers are much less likely to drink and drive. Older drivers involved in fatal crashes in 2002 had the lowest proportion of intoxication of all adult drivers, according to the National Highway and Transport Safety Association in America. In 2002. So I guess the data is clear here. So when we started the show, we wanted to uncover a few things, right? Who said what and what caused this outburst of social media anger over what, right? That's one. We covered that, hopefully. And then number two is what does the data say? So the data says that older people are safer drivers. And like you mentioned, Alex, the health and safety concerns is isolated. It is something that, yes, you have to look into. And yes, maybe older people will need to renew their license more regularly because they have to go through medical checkups more regularly. That happens, right? So once you hit a certain age, like for example, if you hit 40, you have to go through do your medical checkups yearly. Older people, they have to do the same thing, and that's fair. But it must be driven by data because it covers a lot of things. You have to look at costs. You have to look at what are the tests that they have to go through. And then the third thing we wanted to talk about in this show is regulations, right?
Yep.
Rules, the legislation, the rules and legislation about driving in Malaysia. The point that we wanted to make is this. For our roads to be safer in Malaysia, it's not just singling out one category of driver. It's not just because we started this by this article from NST, and the article was quoted from a press conference, and the question was, how do we improve road safety in the country? To improve road safety in the country is not singling out one category of drivers, whether it's old people, young people, women drivers, or whatever kind of drivers, right? It's not that. because we're all drivers in Malaysia, and to be honest, we all once have broken the speed limit, or once gone over a double line when you want to overtake somebody, and everybody's done that, and for me personally, I'm not blaming you guys, I'm not blaming myself, I'm not blaming anybody here for driving aggressively or dangerously. Yes, not to say that, for breaking the rules, right? Because the problem is not it's not to say it's not us, but it's not all us. The problem is we have weak enforcement from young people who are going to go into the driving community. It's so easy to get a car license, right? It's designed so that you can lulus. It's designed so that you can what's the word lulus in English?
Pass. It's just to pass the bare minimum that you can operate the vehicle, and that's it.
That's it.
Whether you can drive in the real world, that's a completely different issue.
That's not up to JPJ.
Yeah, that's why I said I just want to make sure you can start the car, can move, can stop, brake, turn left and right. Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
This is designed for real world. Like for example, what happens if you're in a traffic jam? What happens if there's a sudden break? This kind of situation. What happens if there's a puddle of water on the road? Do you go
aquaplaning and all that?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Those things, right? Those comes with experience for Malaysian drivers. These are not taught in school, which I think is vital.
Yeah, it is. And the other thing is the way our roads are designed allows us to not allows us not condones, but it promotes unsafe driving. Right, some corners are too sharp or too blind. The road signs are not fixed. Some potholes are not placed. Some
Let me just place a pothole right here.
Some potholes exist in such an unfortunate place that people either run over them, like motorcyclists run over them and get into an accident, or when cars have to make evasive maneuvers, that they crash.
Oh, I think not potholes. I would say the manholes. The holes for the sewage, for the electrical cabling underneath. So those kind of placements are placed so odd that your car will, if you run over it, you're going to damage your suspension, and also how the roads are being built. Because like for example, like if let's say there's a new road that's being constructed, and next thing maybe Telecom or TMB or Waterworks will come. Okay, I need to dig a trench or hole here. They'll make a hole, and once someone comes in to resurface the road, okay, I'm not going to touch the hole. So at the end, you have this deep manhole in the middle of the road, which can be a dangerous situation for motorcyclists. And also, going back to road designs, I've had a lot to say about road designs. Like, for example, merging of lanes. Let's say from 3 lanes to 2 lanes, right? There's no indication that the lanes are being merged.
Yes.
Like, for example, you look at Singapore, Australia, right? You can see gradual arrows. Okay, merge to the right, repeatedly. So Malaysia is like a mystery game. You just drive. They notice, hey, why is it getting narrower now? Oh, I need to merge last minute.
Yeah.
Road signs are not clear, signs are confusing. Even traffic light designs, like for example, especially when you cross municipalities, like this Ampang Jaya, this DBKL. So the traffic light could be like, okay, 3 lanes here. Then the next 3 lanes in front is like off to the right. So it's like, if you're driving this lane, which lane do you go to? So those things are not clear, and these are badly designed.
Yeah, it's poorly designed roads, poorly designed traffic lights, signs, and everything, and that contributes to accidents. Back then it was easy to single out. Okay, speed kills. And all these older people are dangerous. It undermines the actual issue here. For safer roads in Malaysia, it takes a systemic change. It takes a fundamental change. The way we educate our younger drivers, the way we look at our enforcement in terms of the merit system, in terms of the of punishment if you break the rules. It seems like there's no consequence. People can be road bullies and whatever. They don't get caught. There's no incentive to be safer drivers on the roads.
And also, then again, back to this topic again, it's about restricting by age, right? What Transport Minister Dr. Wee Koh Siong said, right? Ministry of Transport never gave orders to mandate senior citizens older than 70 years old to return the license, and he said that it's because competency is a different issue. You can't discriminate based on age alone. And give example like YB Langkawi, which is Tun Mahathir, which is like 96 years old right now. He drives very well, far better than those crazy drivers around the streets.
That's what he said?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Okay, for once, I agree with our Transport Minister lah.
Yeah, so it's wrong to discriminate against age, against gender. Like, speaking about gender, right? They always generalize, okay, women are bad drivers. But when it comes to car sales, right, secondhand cars, right, one lady driver only. So you say women are bad at driving, but they're better in taking care of their cars. Like, what is that supposed to mean?
So if you want your car to sell, right, or have a better value, you put in the description, one careful lady owner weekend car.
Like, what's going
So
on?
the car value go higher. But then it's like, oh, ladies drivers are very dangerous, very dangerous.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I mean, that is a very good example at how we put our biases in place and forgo what the data say.
Yep.
We are biased towards women drivers and old drivers, but we know that they are actually careful drivers.
Yep.
So that, you know, in the market, you put in the description, or not old man lah, senior citizen driver, no accident, accident free, not free accident. It doesn't make sense. So yeah, I guess, okay, so that's pretty much it. What do you guys think? We've covered everything, right? So somebody reported it wrongly, or used the wrong words.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two is everybody just read the headline, didn't go into the data. Number three is older people are not more dangerous on the roads. Younger people are. I'm not discriminating against younger people. It's just fact, guys. I mean, younger people are more impressionable. They have less experience. They have less judgment. They're more likely to be intoxicated when driving. That's the facts. I mean, young people are like that. I'm not saying, you know, it's your fault. I'm saying it's just the nature of being young, right? That's what. And you know, yes, do we need safer roads? We covered this in one of our COVID episodes, right? The number one cause of death, not number one of the main cause of death in the country is road accidents. On average, we lose about 80 people, 100 people a day.
No. In 2019, we lose about 16.9 people.
16.9.
Yeah, 16.9. And then in 2020, we lose 12.7.
12.7 people.
Yeah, because of the MCO, so we have fewer deaths.
No, what is the 0.7?
Huh?
You lose like a leg or an arm or what?
Average for the whole year. So okay, we see 2020 there are 4,634 fatalities
on the road.
on the roads.
Yeah.
Versus the previous year was 6,167.
Yeah, and I think among Asian countries, we have like the highest fatality on the roads.
Yeah, one of the highest.
And what's frustrating is that it's so easy to fix this problem. So easy.
Yep.
And it's not by targeting older people.
Yep.
Okay. And on that note, I think that's pretty much it. Anything else you want to add?
Drive safe.
Yeah, drive safe, guys. Okay, what do you think? Put them in the comment section below. Are you an older person that's watching this show? Let us know what your thoughts are, what your experiences are. We really want to know. I think it's great that you'll be able to share that with our viewers and us. And that also reminds me, we are available on podcasts. So if you want to listen to the show rather than watch it because you're driving, we are available on anywhere that you get your podcast. Just search for Surgeon Chow Let's Talk About, and we're there. If you're listening to us on podcast, please do give us a 5-star rating because that actually helps our show. And for those of you who are watching us on YouTube, thanks very much for watching. Give us a thumbs up if you like the show. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you like it. And as always, comments, suggestions, and feedback. That's really important to us, and we love reading from you guys. So let us know what you think. Yeah, that's pretty much it. This is Amin.
This is Alex.
Catch you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.